everybody, welcome to the new Take It to Go. This is going to be more of a full-fledged podcast discussion, and we just want to welcome everybody for joining us. This week it's going to be me and Bobby and Lewis and Frank, and we're just going to be recapping Sunday's Sunday's service. I'm already thinking in podcast terms. And then we're going to just be diving in a little bit more on our current series, which is Present Parenting.
That's right. So we're in our new Present Parenting series. And Frank, this week we talked about what it looked like for God to reparent us. Give us a little quick recap of that.
Yeah, the big idea this past week was how parenting really starts with allowing God to reparent you. And all of us who are parents, we oftentimes parent out of how we were raised and some of the things that were in our experiences as children. And really the life of following Jesus is a life of all of these kind of broken pieces of our existence kind of being remade and renewed and transformed in the image of Jesus, and it applies to our parenting too. So that's kind of where we're at on Sunday. If you missed last week's lesson, you can jump online, you can catch up and watch that week's message, but that's kind of where we're at this past Sunday.
And we'll tag that here or there in the comments or something,
Yeah.
So be sure to check that out. All right, so a little bit of an icebreaker.
Okay.
We want to have a little bit of fun with these. So who are your 2 or 3 favorite fictional parents? Lewis, we're going to start with you because I know you were thinking about it yesterday.
Oh gosh. Yeah. So can it be like a parent figure?
Sure.
Too? Okay.
This is a broad, open question.
Yeah. So I tried to come up with a mom and a dad, or a parent figure, a mom figure, a dad figure. Well, the first one's a mom, and it's Helen from Incredibles.
That's
The mom.
good.
She's, she reminds me a lot of my wife, but just putting up with my crap all the time. Taking care of the kids, doing everything. And
But also being Elastigirl.
Yeah,
Elastigirl.
Exactly. And then, this one's a stretch. Definitely Obi-Wan Kenobi.
I'll give it.
You know what I'm saying? He's always there. He's always just right when you need a little bit of wisdom, he just shows up.
Nice.
For Luke or for Anakin, he's always been there. So
You could say he raised 2 children, Anakin and Luke. One was a major success, one not so much.
So anyway, that's who I came up with.
Yes.
All right, Frank, who'd you got?
For me, the very first thing that came to mind, my favorite Disney movie is Lion King, and I think Mufasa is a terrific parental figure.
That's true.
The obvious, of course, he sacrifices his life for his own child.
Yes.
But one of my favorite scenes is when Simba gets in trouble after he goes into the the elephant graveyard, and Dad has this moment of serious, you disobeyed me, that means something, and you put yourself in danger. And he had this moment where there was this kind of very serious, reverent it's important to know what's right and what's wrong. But then right after that, he and his son had this fun wrestling match, right? And so it's almost here he is reprimanding Simba, but it was ultimately for the purpose of restoring their relationship, and they did that, So
Such a balance.
It's my favorite Disney movie, so I would do that one. And so that was the first thing that came to mind. I was talking to my wife about it last night, and she said, which I thought this was great, that I've only seen Little Women one time, but she's read the books 100 times in this. But Marmee, Marmee?
Yes, that was gonna be mine.
Anyway, and I've only seen the movie once, but she really does have this she is slow to speak, quick to listen, and she has this understands the uniqueness of all of her daughters, and doesn't try to push them into a mold that she anyway. So I think Marmee from Little Women is another great example.
I'm
that comes
adding
from my
on to
wife.
that one
Yeah.
because she's also very servant-hearted, and
Okay.
she's also very empowering. So that was going to be mine. And then I
Nice.
was thinking retro TV show, and what's the name of the dad from Who's the Boss? Who was the actor that played that?
Tony Danza?
Tony
Yes,
Danza.
he was so good. He was such a present dad. So when I was thinking
Okay,
parents,
so-
he was the one.
I had 3 sitcom-y parents jump into my mind pairs.
Okay.
Red and Kitty Foreman from that 70s
Sure.
show jumped to the top of my list. Tim Allen and his
Right.
wife, whose name I can't remember, from Home Improvement.
Yeah, that's just.
And then I'm
Patricia
blanking on the
Heaton.
third one,
Yeah.
but yeah.
Yeah, the home improvement one. I thought
the
it
home
was
improvement.
yesterday.
Oh, Phil Banks from Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
Oh, yes.
Where's the other one? So, yeah, so those are fun. Okay, so now we'll get into the meat and potatoes of this. Those are always fun questions. If you have others that we missed, please get those in the comments and let us know. So, I'll let you ask the first one.
All right, guys, here's the first question. How does your parenting change you? How is it changing you? Because you guys both have younger kiddos.
Yeah, I think I'll give, how does parenting change you? For me, number one, I didn't realize how selfish I truly was until I had kids. So that's the first thing. And then also as a follower of Jesus, I think for me, one of the biggest things is just having this kind of new perspective to see God through, like as a father, it's just a unique experience that you only get being a father, then not how to relate that to how God views us as his children. So I think in my own kind of faith walk, my parenting has really shaped the way that I see God now, and it's really changed the way that I see God. So
I think for me, kind of like what you mentioned, Frank, like, discipline. Both my parents are in the military, so discipline for me growing up is quite a bit different than how perhaps I approach it with my children. And I just always, I know what it helps me or what it teaches me is just to portray grace and mercy and truth to my children while disciplining them. Like, I just try to make sure that those principles are there and present in everything we do, so that again, so that I'm just being aware of God's work in my life too. So like I've accepted forgiveness of sins of Jesus, that grace, that mercy, and I just want to always be passing that on, even as I raise my children. So I know for me, like every time I come into an instance like discipline or something with my child, it's like what am I learning? What is God trying to teach me? What is God trying to teach me? And so I think a lot of it has to do with grace and mercy with children. So.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
All right, so another question, and this one came in from my wife, actually, so thank you for the shout out from my wife. But she had a question kind of like, at what age or what's the process for you guys when it comes to questions that are real big, tough issues? We recently had a series talking about kind of, transgender and the LGBTQ community. So I don't know if your guys' kids are to that age yet that this has been a thing, but what advice can you give for kind of when is it appropriate to start talking about that issue?
I was thinking about this. I think there's definitely topics that are not age appropriate, for our children, but like as far as like some of the specific details. But when I was thinking about this, is I'm always trying to lay a foundation or inroads into those conversations. So like for example, that particular topic, we're constantly talking about how God created us, his like marriage, man and woman. When we come across it in the Bible, like if we're reading or something, we stop and just remind him of just those, again, foundational things that we see in the Bible. So for me, I actually approach it as like I actually am starting the conversation, but just from a very foundational or fundamental approach. So that when the age does, get to perhaps where they're a little older, I don't know the exact year, but it comes up, right? And so then that way there's already a foundation laid so that we can then put that next building block on there, in life. So that's kind of how I approach it.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I think you can't start early enough. That would be my answer to it. Obviously, there are age-appropriate conversations, but you have to be thinking that, like Lewis said, I'm starting the conversation now with my toddler, And I think we have to acknowledge a couple things. Number one, we know that our children are getting indoctrinated or information, or they're hearing these things much earlier than we can even imagine. So there's that. So I think that if you lean toward or err to the side of talking to them when they're too young, that's probably helping set them up well. But I think Lewis is spot on in the fact that everything that we do, we are laying a foundation for those conversations, and we're just pointing to what God's design is. If we can point to what God's design is, and you can start when they're 2 years old at pointing to what God's design is, then that continues to lay the foundation for when those conversations reach a point where you're having more direct conversations with older children. And so I really do think it's a mentality that you got to start immediately, but in the way that we do that. And of course, parents know their kids better than anybody. You know about your children, about what is appropriate, what they can handle, and every kid's a little bit different. So I would say never too early.
Yeah.
Anything to add, Bobby?
I think maybe just building on what Lewis says, I think my kids are older, so I have an almost 20-year-old and an almost 16-year-old. And I think, like you said, we started those foundational conversations about what does it look like to live and love like Jesus. I mean, those are the things that you can start when they're little tiny, and as they grow, that conversation changes a little bit and adapts a little bit. But I think everything in Christianity comes down to some really simple truths that could be communicated at really basic levels and then taken up a little bit as your kids get older. So I love the idea of just starting with the foundation and just building upon it.
Yeah, I think sometimes there can be this, like, we were all probably raised with, we're gonna have the talk, like,
right.
in that
Yes.
span of early teenage years, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, well, we'll just tack this into the talk.
Yeah.
But I think you guys are right. Like, it just, the earlier you get started and
Right.
build on that, make it, like you said, it's a 18-year conversation as opposed to
Right.
we're
And
gonna
that's-
go into Dad's hunting
And that's
cabin
very
and do it.
biblical, because I mean that's what you look through the lens of the Jewish community, and especially through the lens of the Old Testament Torah, and what they encouraged was, hey, listen, you got to be talking to your kids as you're walking along the road, and as you're going to work, and as you're sitting at home, and as you're doing the hobbies, and like it's just the training and the teaching and the talk is all of it, but when it comes to those specific hard issues, I think we do as parents need to have a good strategy in mind when we say, okay, listen, I'm talking to my toddler about the way that God created us. Okay, well that's a strategy to help be a building block for having those next conversations. And so I like that conversation. The talk is their whole life. It's
Right.
not something that you push off.
Right. All right, well, the next question we've got is, what are your go-to verses to help you be a godly parent? I mean, just pick a
Just
verse.
pick a verse. yeah. I'll say for me, it is two. It is the love chapter in 1 Corinthians 13. Just love is patient, love is kind. All of that list. I mean, you could spend a lifetime just on that list when it comes to your parenting. But and we're going to actually talk about this a little bit this Sunday, but this concept of loving your children, and we all would say we love our children. I think sometimes we get confused of what love looks like.
Yeah.
But that section of scripture for me is something I always have to go back to. Like, was I kind to my child today? And just asking that honest question. But then, and then secondly is the list of the fruit of the Spirit. So those two combined for me are the ones that I go to. And I think that, and again, we're going to talk about this weekend, but really, when you look at scripture, there's not, number one, Jesus never directly talked about parenting, ever, one time. There are literally like 2 Bible verses in the New Testament that speak directly to parents. But I think that Jesus laid the foundation for New Testament parenting when he laid the foundation for New Testament behavior. And we can apply it that way. But so those are 2 for me.
Yep. I guess for me, well, like when my kids maybe do something that obviously needs disciplinary action, like I always remember, I don't know why, but I always remember Romans 3:23, for all have sinned and fall short of the glory. Everybody.
Me too, yeah.
So
that's letting God reparent you.
yeah,
That's
because I mean, I don't know. I try to understand. The sin condition that we have and just this brokenness, and so I just try to have an understanding when we come to an issue. But and then of course, I like the story of the prodigal son. and just like, again, maybe that, well, I think Adam maybe gave me that idea when we talked earlier, but just how the dad, handled that situation and restored his son. And so I just want to, make sure that my son understands that, don't love him more, don't love him less. Like, you mess up, we're here to restore. We're here to build him back and encourage him. And we understand, when he makes a mistake, which I think helps us grow in relationship with each other. So
yeah, that's good. Cool.
So those are some great Bible verses, and again, we'll have those listed below if anyone wants to go and read through those in your own quiet time this week. Or do you have any other resources that you guys go to or come back to time and time again that kind of get back to this, letting God reparent us, or just parenting in general? What resources would you guys throw out there for folks?
Yep. I can go. So my wife brings all of us good, husbands along, I think, sometimes on some of these parenting strategies.
Yes, a great wife is a great resource.
She has, we've listened to some podcasts, she's read a book, we are going to a conference on something that is called Family Teams, and it is put on by Jefferson Bethke, and basically it is the concept of multi-generational family living on mission. So it's a team aspect. I guess the argument that they make is that a lot of our Western culture today views a family as a springboard to individualism, rather than perhaps like a true team operating together where we need all of each other and we were relying on each other, even our young children, and so I really liked that. So basically in this view or resource, basically the concept is include your kids in conversations about your schedule, your work, any jobs that you would take, any activities that you guys would do, and letting them have a voice because they're a part of the team. And so anyway, we're going to a conference this fall about it, so I'm excited about that. But Family Teams, just put on by Jefferson Bethke. So
Cool. Yeah. I'll throw out two. I'll just reiterate the one I mentioned on Sunday, the Dan Allender book, How Children Raise Their Parents. Again, just another. It's just a great book that talks about what you are learning through parenting from your kids and ultimately from God about yourself. And so I think that is a terrific resource. But then I'll throw one more out there, and I talk about this all the time. I have an app on my phone called Parent Q. CUE. We can link it in the comments too. But it is an app that actually kind of connects with the curriculum that our children's ministry does here. And so I have all of my kids in this app, and it brings every day, like, hey, here's some things that you can talk to your kids about that will connect with what they've been learning in their children's worship, with their small groups. For my older kids, it has a printable daily devotional for them to go through that I can do with them. And so it's just a great resource for me to kind of be consistent in the way that I walk with my children and kind of help shape and help their faith. And it's a great one. And then of course they have some resources on there that are encouraging for parents, and different articles that that answer a lot of hot topic questions that parents have today. But that app is a great one. And my favorite thing about the app, and people kind of get a little weird when I say this, but in the app, all of my kids, I have their picture, and then it tells me how many weeks I have until that child leaves my house for college, or at least graduates high school. And it's really crazy because I have a couple kids that are halfway done. I'm halfway done with them. And it's crazy to think about, but every time I look at it, I'm reminded I only have this many weeks left with them. So I need to make those weeks count. So it's a resource that's kind of really helped me be intentional about some of those conversations with them. And it's been great because, a lot of times it's difficult. You want to engage with your children on a deeper level, but it's what do you do? What do you say? What do you talk about? It's a great resource to kind of help direct some of those conversations.
I have one that I want to share that's not particularly, just came up as you were actually talking earlier about the Allender book. this has been particularly helpful for me. I came from a divorced family, actually come from generations of brokenness in family relationships, which can plant some seeds that grow up in unhealthy dynamics, can create some things, even in the way that I have been parented, and the way that I've been parenting, that I want to reparent. And I've been working through Pete Scazzero's Emotionally Healthy series. He has several of them. I'm doing Emotionally Healthy Relationships right now, but it is wrecking me and remaking me, like in the best way. And I'm noticing even just things that are okay, but maybe not the best for my family, that God has been reparenting me, teaching me different ways to do things, ways to handle things, and it's just been really incredible. So it's a great resource. Maybe if you are similar in that situation and you come from some brokenness and maybe some dynamics developed that you want to be part of changing that for generations to come. It's a really great, has been a great resource for me this summer.
It's good.
Awesome. Yeah, we're going to put all those in the comments so you guys can find links to those books and those websites and those folks that we talked about. Thank you all for joining us. I have one more question, and that is, what is the ultimate goal of parenting? Frank's going to answer that one. We're going to be answering that one on Sunday. So be sure you come in, join us in person or online. Be sure to subscribe to this channel if you haven't yet, because we're going to be doing more of this type of stuff. We're going to try and we're going to shoot for weekly with this, but at least a couple times per series, we're going to get together and just kind of dig in a little bit deeper, and we'll post little segments throughout the week. So thanks again. It's going to be me and Bobby. We'll have some different folks with us different times, but thanks everybody for watching, and we'll see you next time.